Hey guys, hope you're having a good day. Pretty short screencast today. Haven't done this in a couple days here, so gave you a little bit of break there, which is nice. But we're going to talk about ancient Greece, and we're going to focus on the rise of the Greek city-state or the polis. So, not a ton of slides today, and the Ed puzzle is mostly going to ask you vocab questions, okay? But nonetheless, you'll do an activity about how you would arrange a polis here after you're done. Okay, so moving into ancient Greece. Ancient Greece is a little bit different than the other ancient civilizations that we talked about. Now we're really getting into more complex societies. Okay, more complex people with complex ideas, ways of governing themselves. We're going to get to more. It's going to start to look more and more like what we're used to, or these ancient Greeks. What you think of, these are your toga wearing people, them and ancient Rome. But ancient Greek and Rome culture was not a whole lot different from one another, and their government styles were not that much different either. And you'll find that out when we do Rome in the middle of next week. Okay, but ancient Greece. Again, we're moving more towards the future, so our societies get a little more complex, a little more involved as we go here, and hopefully you can um, relate to them a little bit better than our last ones. Okay, so we're going to start by talking about the geography of Greece. Okay, Greece is very mountainous, and these mountains create lots of valleys. In between mountains, you've got little valleys. And in these valleys are where city states develop. Okay, similar to ancient Sumer and um, Babylon. Okay, city states, individual little cities or territories that were governed their own way, and they were independent, but they're all still part of the ancient Greek Empire, just like we were part of the ancient Mesopotamian Empire at the time. Okay, but they're distinct, kind of like now cities are a little bit more distinct from one another. That's kind of similar to what city states were. A bunch of islands surround Greece. That's a very good thing for trading. That's a very bad thing for protection. These are hard to defend themselves. Okay, and again, these bodies of water are important for transportation. They're important for trade, and they're important for farming. Okay, you've got that GNC here in the Mediterranean, which is down there. Okay, continued with the Greek homeland or geography. Um, Again, the valleys are where city states develop. Okay, and these valleys created a very strong loyalty among the Greek people. Okay, because it was hard to get from one city state to another. You could do it, and people did, but it was a little bit more challenging. So in these places, they were very loyal to one another because that's all they really had. Okay, that's all they really had. Um, and that loyalty goes so far that there were frequent wars that took place. We'll talk more about the wars tomorrow, but there were a lot of wars that took place because people wanted to defend their ability to govern themselves. Okay, so they that loyalty to their city state was so strong they didn't want that to go away, so they went to war um, in order to defend that. Okay, here's the Greek city state. Okay, what did they look like? What was the Greek city state? Okay, polis is the Greek word for city state, and Minneapolis, right? That's a city. That Greek root word continues. Metropolitan area. That Greek root word continues into our regular vocabulary in the 21st century. Okay, but all city states, they had boundary lines. They had a community with a shared language. The other big thing to note is that these city states were politically and economically independent, so they governed themselves in their own way, and it could be different among city states. And they were economically independent, meaning they had enough money to support their own city state. They all took part in whatever economic activity was best suited for their city state. Okay, similar to places like China and India couldn't trade that well. So they were more focused on farming. It's the same with the city state. In each individual city state, they found something that they could do well to make money or to trade, and so they did that. And again, the loyalty and pride becomes really, really big in the city states. And you'll get a chance again to make your own city state, and then tomorrow you'll look at some of the different city states in Greece. Okay. Um, Here's kind of a map of what of the different city states in ancient Greece. Okay, so like I said, there's a boundary line for each one, right? There's a place where one ends and the next starts. So a bunch of smaller little states, with each their own identity. They're just called city states at this time for whatever reason. Okay, but see Sparta, Athens, Thessaly, Macedonia, Ionia. Crete is down here. The list goes on and on. Okay, but this is what they kind of look like at the time, and there's again huge amounts of loyalty in each one of these city states. Okay, um, as I mentioned, it's all about those dollar bills. All right, each polis was economically independent. It did its own thing to produce and sell. All the goods were bought, sold, and traded. In each polis, there was an agora, which was a marketplace. Okay, um, and that was at the center of the polis. Okay, everyone would come to the center of the city state in order to um, So again, the Agora was huge. It was in the center. It was the marketplace where people would go and trade things. It was the center of the city state. It was the main economic place for the city state. They were city states were successful or unsuccessful based on the health of the agora and how many people were there and trading and things like that. Okay, this does lead to some division among the states, right? And some are wealthier than others. That's just the reality of how well can you produce things, how much money is floating around in your or how many goods are floating around in your city state. And so you can tell which ones are wealthier than others, and at times that can create a divide and can even create conflict among people. Okay. Next, the Acropolis is a hill-like structure that is the tallest area in the city-state, and it was generally near the center. The Agora was the center, but the Acropolis is not far. And it's a hill-like structure, kind of the top of the polis. It was what everybody looked to. It was where the government buildings generally were. Things like the Parthenon and things like that were part of the Acropolis. It's where people went for politics, and it was supposed to represent the high point of your polis. Politics were very important in ancient Greece. It's the first time we really see. We've always seen government structures, but these government structures that come about in this time will last for thousands of years. Okay, it's not simply kings and queens and monarchies. This is legitimate political structures, and they were at the Acropolis, which was the center, near the center of the polis, built up on a hill. They were built up on hills so that you couldn't attack them very easily. Okay, and because if your government goes down or your government building, it's really hard to come back from that. So if it's hard to get up there, it made it harder for city states to conquer one another. Okay, so again, Greek government really important to the ancient Greeks, really important to history because it presents new ideas about how to govern people. And again, these things will last for thousands of years, and some even are used to start the government for the United States when they come to life. Okay, so early Greek government was an aristocracy. They were run by kings. That's what aristocracy means. Okay, this is sometimes referred to as an oligarchy, which is rule by the few. Okay, so kings, queens, that sort of thing. And this takes place because in about 750 BCE, people start to own land in ancient Greece. And as you own land, you become a more powerful person because land is associated with money, and money is associated with power. Land means crops, crops mean money, money means power. Okay, and so it switched to an aristocracy where government is controlled by rich landowners. and a this is when we'll really see a middle class start to appear. Okay, in ancient Greece, but that's you need to know that word aristocracy, and you need to know oligarchy and what those things mean, because aristocracy is a word that we'll use um, throughout the year, because that's a the run by monarchs who own land is a political structure that lasts for thousands of years. Okay. um, Over time, these rich landowners, the aristocracy shifts to a more singular power, and that is a tyrant or tyranny. And that is when rich aristocrats, they want to expand their land, and so they illegally take power. Usually, it's by force. Okay. But they have support of the people for the most part. People look up to them, but there's still a tyrant, meaning that what they say goes, and there's no arguing against it. Okay, there's no doing your own thing. Some of you might think that your parents are tyrants. Okay, that they rule illegally. What they say goes, and you don't get to speak out against it. But a tyrant is someone that does take power, and it's a single person generally, and it comes from those rich landowners that do that. Direct democracy is the most common form of government in ancient Greece. This is what we see the most, and this is what we'll see moving forward in Greece, but also in other places throughout the world. And it is called a direct democracy. Okay, and this is just where citizens participate directly in making the decisions. Okay, direct democracy, they participate directly in making decisions. A lot of people think in the United States that we have a direct democracy, and we actually don't. We have a representative democracy. Do we get to vote? Yes. Do we get to influence things? Yes. But we have this thing called the Electoral College, and we vote on people to make the decisions for us. Okay. So we vote people into the Senate, the president, the House of Representatives, and then they vote on different bills. Yes, at the local level, we still have to vote on referendums and things like that. But this is a government where if you're voting for a leader, you tally up the votes, and whoever gets, the person with more of a popular vote, who more people vote for, wins. And in the United States, with the Electoral College, that's not always the case. Okay, each state is given a certain number of electoral votes, and then it's based off of how many electoral votes you win, so on and so forth. But a direct democracy is one where all citizens participate directly, and a key word here is all. All right, every citizen gets a say and gets a vote, and then you tally up the votes for laws and for rulers and for who's going to be in certain positions, and then you make the decisions that way. Okay, most popular because people like it the best, right? The majority of people like it the best, therefore it sticks around quite a bit. Yep, that's all that we will get to for today. Okay, so you need to know those vocabulary words. You need to know how this works. But other than that, we will get to the other stuff tomorrow. Okay, so you need to go on Schoology now and complete the build your own polis activity. Again, another creative kind of fun way for you to use your knowledge of the polis and of the government styles to create your own thing. And be creative. It's more fun to read creative stuff, but also understand you need to have these aspects of it. But all the directions are on there for you. So enjoy the rest of your day working on that, and let me know if you have questions.